All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Manhattan Community Board 3's Transportation, Public Safety, and Environment Committee meeting for the month of May on May 11, 2021. Before we officially start the meeting, I'm just going to pivot over to our Vice Chair, Michelle Cooper-Smith, with the rules for the meeting and the guidelines.
Thanks, Paul. As you can see on your screen, thank you. Paul, did you start the recording, or do I need to do that?
Started already.
You started, okay. This meeting is being recorded. All attendees, please sign into the chat with your name and affiliation if relevant, and what you'd like to speak on if there's a specific item. The chat is used to sign in and ask about technical issues. It'll go to me and Paul. The chair will announce when each agenda item is up for comment from the public. When that happens, please use the Zoom function to speak. The Zoom raise hand Zoom function to speak on that agenda item when the chair asks you to do so. The chair will then recognize speakers with a 2-minute time limit. If you're representing a group, please select no more than 2 speakers. The chair will note the number of attendees supporting or opposing the agenda item in the resolution and for the record. And we just ask that everyone keep themselves muted unless you've been recognized by the chair to avoid background noise. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Just a follow up on that. If you are presenting on a specific item tonight on the agenda, please indicate that as well. So that way we put you down correctly for the minutes and when we send them in. So once again, everyone, welcome tonight. Our first agenda item is the approval of minutes, and then we'll take attendance. I sent out the minutes last night. I apologize to the committee. My email came out a little bit later this month. Any objections to the minutes or any additions to the minutes that we needed to make from last month that we may have missed? Going once, going twice, 3 times sold. Thank you. All right, Wendy, we can go with attendance.
Paul Rangel.
Present.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Wendy, I'm present. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Michelle?
Present.
Oh, okay. Wendy Lee, present. Lee Burnett?
Present.
Thank you. David Crane is out today.
He's out. He's absent.
Felicia?
She has been on.
Ellen Lowe?
I don't see her. No.
Ellen? No? Okay. And Tariq Ramos?
I don't see Tariq either. Was that 4 present, 4 absent?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we do have quite a packed agenda tonight. I'm going to start on it right away. I believe we have a block party application, which is the first time I've dealt with a block party application. Is it Joanna? Am I correct? Joanna from Printed Matter? Are you on to present on the block party?
Yes, I am.
All right, great. Take it away.
Okay, great. Thank you for having me. My name is Johanna Rietveld. I'm the bookstore manager of Printed Matter St. Mark's. And as Paul just mentioned, I'm here to propose an event on June 12th. It's a spring zine fair in collaboration with 8 Ball Community. 8 Ball is a collective, volunteer-led collective on the Bowery, and we are on 38 St. Mark's, so St. Mark's and 2nd Avenue. We are hoping to organize a zine fair on Saturday from 11 to 7 p.m., closing off the block and hosting about 35 to 45 artists and independent publishers, all New York based. They will be tabling in the curb and selling books or artworks or books and artworks. We are hoping to have some music, and I've been in touch with Jamie Hernandez about this. We're aware of the churches also that are there and have informed all the businesses on the streets of the event, and they all seem to be excited, and we're happy to sign and approve of the event. We don't expect any programming on the block. We're actually teaming up with the community gardens in the Lower East Side and the East Village, and are hoping to spread out the people this way. So a few gardens are hosting their own events, and some of them are hosting our events. A few examples are we're having a composting workshop, a flower pressing workshop, a poetry reading, a tarot reading, and some acoustic music. Gardens participating so far are El Sol Brillante, Albert's Garden, East Side Outside, First Street Garden, and Le Petit Versailles. For the organization of the day itself, we have a team of volunteers, at least 15 people, probably even more, who will be able to monitor the amount of people in the space. So at the end and the beginning of the block, and also monitoring all our exhibitors, our artists and publishers. They will all also sign an agreement, including all the CDC guidelines. And we have 2 hours for cleanup and 2 hours for setup before and after scheduled. We're hoping to make this really a community event. So we're making a fair guide with all the names of our artists and publishers. We'll be making, it's a free giveaway. We'll have a map with the different gardens and the programming that will be in every garden and at what time. Plus, it will take a bit the form of a fanzine of the East Village. So with some, and Lower East Side with stories of past and present. Interview with, for example, Bullet Space, tribute to Pyramid Club, some photos of Clayton Patterson, information about all the gardens participating, local restaurant reviews or shop reviews. And before the actual fair on June 12th, we're hoping to organize a Zoom event at the end of May to coincide with FAB New York City's Lower East Side History Month, which will focus on the political, cultural, and activist role of the community gardens in this neighborhood. Yeah, we're really excited. I hope you enjoy this. I do too.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on today. Just a quick question. You said it was June 12th. What from what time to what time?
11 a.m. to 7 p.m. is the time of the actual fair. And then we're hoping to have 2 hours to like set up before and 2 hours to clean up after.
So more like 9 to 9, if anything. Or
9 to 9, if that's, yeah.
Susan, Susan, go ahead.
Yeah.
You can clear this up for me a little bit.
We don't usually include the cleanup and setup time in that. And the other thing I would add is I couldn't tell if you were having music on the block, but if there's a sound permit, it's limit of 4 hours.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Okay. Committee, any questions for Johanna? Go ahead, Susan.
I'm going to say, so these are actually approved online. So if you do the resolution, it's just enough to let the board members know what they're voting on. So it could be basically what's on the agenda, the block party on such and such location, such and such a time. And then I do it all online, do the approvals online.
All right. So I think we're gonna have to do a bullet point because I don't have a draft up in front of me, if that's all right.
You could just read it from the agenda and we can make it up from there.
All right. Lee, were you about to say something?
Yeah, if I can. Susan, I assume that obviously since this is coming before us, this is now the city is approving this. They're allowing these types of events.
Yes, they don't come to us until after the city vets them.
Okay, so there are no concerns about social distancing.
The city is taking care. So they said that they will follow the guidelines that they're given, but just to let you know, the city is starting to take applications now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. All right. We're gonna need to put something up. We're gonna need to vote on something. All right.
Like say, you could just say to approve the printed matter block party on St. Mark's for June 12th St. Mark's and between, what is it, Second Avenue and Third Avenue, June 12th, 11 to 7 p.m.
Wendy,
Second
could you?
Avenue-
I'm-
Sorry, Second
I'm-
Avenue and First.
It's between first and second. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wendy, could you pull up a blank Word document so we can do this quick resume?
Sure thing. I just need screen sharing.
Sure. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Go ahead. You should be able to.
I don't think she's a co-host.
Yeah, she has ability to share though.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
show you. She has ability to share.
Hi, Miss Seltzer, Susan.
Who-
Can I know this is, can I just ask if this is a meeting that we're can talk about the community parks today?
Not at this one.
Not
This is
at
not.
this-
This is a transportation public safety meeting.
Which one can I come to? Or do I have to put in a proposal or something before time?
Susan,
If you want something on the agenda, it has to be done a month in advance. If you will contact the community board tomorrow.
Okay, by the website or the phone?
You can, I'll put my, Michelle, if I put my email in the chat, will she see it or?
I'll send it to her.
Thank you.
all right. So, thank you. Wow. Okay. I just lost my train of thought. My apologies. Let's write this out quickly. It was whereas.
You
Or
don't need-
is it?
You can just say to approve.
CB3 to approve I'm sorry. Guys,
To
Okay.
approve the printed
Block
matters
party.
block party.
Yeah, forget the whereas and all that, just say to approve.
Mhm.
To approve the printed matter, was it ball 8?
8 ball.
8 ball.
8 ball block party on St. Mark's between First and Second Avenues on June 12th. From 11 a.m. to 7 p.m.
We'll clean it up.
Yeah.
I apologize if anybody hears music in the background. That's from the street below me. Okay.
You can send a complaint to the community board.
I would. I don't know. I think I'm gonna take the loss on this one. Normally, I don't mind the music, but right now I do. All right, I think we can vote on this at the final vote when
Okay.
everybody is on. But I want to thank Johanna for coming on today. This looks like we'll probably say it looks like a yes for later. But thank you for coming on and presenting today, and I hope the block party is a success. I'll definitely drop by.
Thank you. Should I stay on or is this, okay, this is good.
You don't-
I'll
you
hear
don't
from
have to.
you.
So
Yeah, go ahead, Susan.
it'll be approved online, so SAPA will have the information.
Okay,
But it'll be at the end of the month. After the full board votes at the end of the month, I will go online and approve it on, it's an intra-agency website. So you only have to deal with street activity permit office, everything, that's your one-stop shopping.
okay, wonderful. And it seems like a yes.
Yes,
Okay, okay, wonderful. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this is going to be a longer meeting, so I don't want to keep you on, but we'll hold the vote at the end.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much. Okay,
You're welcome.
see you on the 12th, hopefully. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right, all right, we're going to go right to our next item. Who is on from DOT that's going to present for the neighborhood loading zone?
Hi, Paul. This is Jennifer. I'm going to do an introduction.
Sure. So just
So good
before
evening.
the introduction, just so to give a quick thing about the item, something we've been talking about for quite some time is the neighborhood loading zones, and DOT is here to present on that tonight. So go ahead, Jennifer, and take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. My name is Jennifer Leung. I'm from the Department of Transportation Manhattan Commissioner's Office. I'm here with my colleagues from our Freight Mobility team. We have Matthew Russa and also Denise Mendez joining us. We are here to present the Neighborhood Loading Zone program. The program's goal is to provide dedicated curb space for various activities and also reducing double parking on narrow residential streets. Without going into further, I'll turn this over to Matthew Russa to present. Please allow screen share for Matthew. Thanks.
He should be able to. He should be able to.
Thank you, Jen. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Rosa. I'm a project manager for New York City Department Transportation for Neighborhood Loading Zone program. I just wanted to make sure everybody is able to see my screen right now. Great, thank you very much. And we will distribute the presentation at after the meeting as well, and it'll also be posted on our DOT's website as well. So yeah, so thank you for having me present today, this afternoon. I will go through the neighborhood loading zone program. I'll first give a brief overview of the program, how it has developed into a program, and how we are looking to expand our program within the this coming year. So going right in, really the background of the program. So the neighborhood loading zone program has been developed back around 2 years ago, back in 2019. We've seen increase in commercial delivery vehicles as well as for hire vehicles in residential neighborhoods, residential streets throughout the city, which has led to double parking and other unwanted parking behaviors from these types of vehicles, where it leads to unsafe road conditions, street conditions for cyclists and pedestrians, but also it backs up traffic in some of the residential streets, causing honking and other noises, as well as unsafe street conditions as well for the drivers. So the neighborhood loading zone program provides a safe space, safe by the curb, where vehicles can access the curb and conduct their drop-off and delivery activities of both passengers as well as delivery goods. So our neighborhood loading zone program has started back in the summer of 2019 as a one-year observation program. Within the year, we have placed 62 neighborhood loading zones in 10 different corridors to really try citywide to really test our neighborhood loading zones in different types of streets to see where neighborhood loading zones will really be able to benefit the neighborhoods, the communities. After our one-year observations, we've expanded and added additional 49 neighborhood loading zones in 18 different corridors citywide, currently totaling 111 neighborhood loading zones throughout the 5 boroughs. In Manhattan, we have 30 neighborhood loading zones in Upper West Side, as well as the Chelsea area. So coming on this coming year in 2021, we are looking to expand our neighborhood loading zone program into additional neighborhoods throughout Manhattan as well as citywide. And we would like to hear some more feedback from the Community Board 3 into expanding the neighborhood loading zone program. So what is a neighborhood loading zone? The neighborhood loading zone consists of a no parking regulation, mostly Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We do have different time frames depending on the needs of the neighborhood, but we are trying to standardize, generally standardize the time frames within similar times between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Monday to Friday. Additionally, to the no parking sign, we have our neighborhood loading zone pedestrian level signage. So these signs are placed on the pedestrian's eye level where we have our logo on the front, and on the back facing the sidewalk, we have a brief overview of the program, what the loading zone, what the space is intended to be used for, as well as an email address that community members can directly provide feedback to our unit. So the neighborhood loading zone program, neighborhood loading zone is generally about 40 feet in length. We came up with the 40 feet in length for relatively larger delivery vehicles such as UPS and FedEx delivery vans to easily access the curb without the need to parallel park. So 40 feet is about two passenger vehicles wide. Depending on the adjacent curb infrastructure, such as fire hydrants and curb cuts, we were able to cut down the length of the loading zone a little bit to around 25 feet to 30 feet, since it allows that additional open space for vehicles to access the loading zone. The loading zones are mostly placed around large residential buildings, in front of large residential buildings, or on the end of the blocks where we see any corner commercial retail activity, such as delis and bodegas. So throughout our first year of our observation, we have ran various types of studies to really look for the utilization rate of the neighborhood loading zone, and also see what types of corridors or what types of blocks have been really been used, the neighborhood loading zones have been used in. We found that generally for most of our study blocks, we've seen around 10% to 70% decrease in double parking in our before after studies. The decrease in double parking rate and the utilization rate was higher in corridors that were relatively narrow with large residential buildings throughout all 5 boroughs. After our studies, we came up with a set of criteria that we are focusing our expansion of the program in. As I mentioned, we are looking at narrow residential streets, so this will be something like less than 35 feet in width if it's a one-way street. Also looking at streets that have bus routes and bike lanes to really get see the additional safety for those types of vehicles, as well as increase the bus speed with less traffic congestion in these blocks. Again, we're looking at placing the neighborhood loading zones either in front of large residential buildings on the block, or on the end of the blocks where there are corner commercial retailers, or on side streets that are right next to a relatively busy commercial corridor. We've seen on these types of locations, we've seen usage not only from personal vehicles and residential delivery vehicles, but we've also seen larger box trucks that deliver to these commercial retailers utilize the loading zone as well. In the past, we have conducted different types of outreach to the communities with our new expansion, we are trying to standardize. We are standardizing our outreach method, and one of the ways we're standardizing the outreach method is to utilize our DOT's neighborhood projects and initiatives tool, where we have a set of maps set up for community members to directly place their suggestions on the maps where they want to see neighborhood loading zone being placed in the community. So far we have a map for what we call an infill map, where we have selected neighborhoods that have already neighborhood loading zones already existing in, where community members can place additional suggestions for neighborhood loading zones. And the other use would be, for example, for new neighborhoods that we are expanding to this year, we'll have a map of the neighborhood where the community members can place their suggestions in. So really the process we're thinking of will be having the map open to the community for about 30 days. After that period, DOT will come and assess the suggestions, looking at our set criteria and see if neighborhood loading zones will be feasible on those locations. After we finalize the locations, we will send over the locations to the community board, where we'll seek for the final comments before installing the neighborhood loading zones. Additionally, to the portal, we also have different types of outreach materials that we can provide to the community. One of the example on the left is our palm cards, where we have the set of locations placed, as well as the basic overview of the neighborhood loading zones. And on the right, we have a What Happens Here flyer, which we can place on the blocks that we are planning to install the neighborhood loading zones. So that is really a quick overview of the neighborhood loading zone program. We're looking forward to work with the community board and hearing any suggestions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. All right. Okay, I know. I am going to open up the questioning from committee members right now. So committee members want to raise your hand or just go right ahead. I don't think there's many of us on.
If I
Am
may,
I allowed to ask a question?
I'm sorry, who's talking?
No,
Lauren
she's not
Green,
there.
I'm not on the community board.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're gonna have to wait a second. I'll take questions from the community in a few moments.
Thank you.
Paul, I guess my question is what they want from us.
I'm sorry. Yeah. All right, let me go one at a time. Michelle, then go ahead, Michelle. Go.
Sorry, I can't raise my hand, so.
Yeah.
What does DOT want from us?
That could be answered by anybody from DOT. What do you need in terms of support from CB3?
Sure. So for as in terms of support, we are looking to I guess advertise or really get the word out for our portal. We'd like to have as much of diverse feedback for our expansion, and we're looking at the community board for support in providing the link to the members, as well as we're looking additionally for as an overview of the program, so the members are familiar with the program.
Okay. Next two hands I see are Lee, and then Lee, go ahead.
a couple of questions and suggestions. One, I would suggest that the signage be trilingual. It looked like the one that you had in on screen was bilingual. Hopefully that won't be a problem size-wise. Second, what are you going to do about enforcement for this? Will there be something like priority towing? If there are cars parked or other vehicles parked illegally, for example, for hours, will there be some type of priority enforcement rather than just ticketing but removing those illegally parked cars. And then, so that's the question. And then another ask would be, when you do come to the community board with suggested locations, if they could be specific, actual addresses, in front of 372 Avenue A, as opposed to just, 3rd Street between A and B. Specific addresses would be very helpful, since many of us in the community are more cognizant of specific issues regarding a particular building or block. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Yes, thank you for the suggestion. In terms of the enforcement, the NLZs will be enforced by NYPD, the traffic agents. We do provide the locations to the police department before the neighborhood loading zones are put in place. There is a 5-day grace period for the neighborhood loading zones when the regulations have been changed. We don't have a really specific enforcement, special enforcement regarding longer duration of the vehicles parked, but we do communicate with the police department about the loading zones and when they're being placed. Yeah, Denise or anybody else, if you could weigh in.
Sure. Thank you, Matt. So we, as Matt mentioned, we work very closely with NYPD to ensure enforcement. If there are areas that need additional spot checks, those are, you're more than welcome to report illegal parking to 311. We get all of those requests. And we make sure that NYPD gets that, to also make sure that they're doing some targeted enforcement as well. But one of the other things I also want to just highlight and reinforce based on Matt's presentation is that the design and the education around this program is meant to be as self-enforcing as possible, with the pedestrian level signage accompanying the other outreach materials and efforts that Matt has highlighted. So we have certainly incorporated a lot of our lessons learned from the demonstration program as we continue to move forward. We look forward to working with the community to also help us to troubleshoot when issues do arise.
Then my suggestion would be, if this is going to be primarily a self-enforce type of thing, I think we see how other self-enforced parking doesn't work, and unless we have buy-in from NYPD that there can be specific specialized enforcement, then this sounds like a fantastic idea in theory, but in practice it sounds like this is just going to wind up being utilized as long-term parking for those who can't find a spot somewhere. So thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Susan,
sorry,
and then
I would like to answer the last question
Sure.
about the suggested locations. We will have, when we do come to the community board, we would have specific addresses, and we'll mention that will be on the corner of this block. Also specific as possible.
Thank you. Susan, and then Wendy.
Sure. First, I wanted to mention, if the board members will remember, Jim had sent out an email asking for suggested locations. And we weeded through all the just complaints and had about 5 suggestions, which I sent to both Paul and to Jennifer at DOT today. As far as Lee brought up the bilingual information, because Community Board 3 is almost equally trilingual, we will never give out information that's bilingual, because then you're excluding one group. So we prefer trilingual. We just wouldn't give out if it's bilingual, but it would be really good, particularly now that block parties and that kind of thing are starting, if we could have information to put on tables to let people know about the map. It'd be really great. My one question you mentioned commercial. My impression was like, you know, for grocery stores and that sort of thing, that they would not be able to use these loading zones because they have their, either they have their own or they should. Is that, am I correct? Will everybody be able to use these loading zones?
So thank you for the suggestion about the trilingual. So we'll make sure our outreach materials will be provided in 3 languages moving forward. To answer your question about the supermarkets and loadings from commercial vehicles, the neighborhood loading zone, although it is intended for residential deliveries as well as personal vehicles, when there is for example, a supermarket on the corner where a neighborhood loading zone is placed, the delivery vehicles delivering to the supermarkets will also be allowed to utilize the space as well. We believe the neighborhood loading zones, if it's placed on the right location, we can expect several different uses from different types of vehicles, which will ultimately help with any decrease in double parking and other unwanted parking behaviors on the block.
So that really concerns me because we have, you know, it's an old part of New York. We have areas that, you know, the grocery stores have several, maybe 4 or 5 18-wheelers at a time, as well as the bars have their 18-wheelers delivering, as well as Amazon in the bus stops, you know, taking a long time to unload all their packages. It just concerns me that it's not enough to address the problem. I assume that you can always start with something, and if we still see problems in certain areas, that we could simply add to it. I mean, to me, the biggest issue is the buses. Next month, we're getting a presentation for Avenue A and Avenue D bus lanes that are supposed to keep the bus lanes clear, which is now, those are now the loading zones. So it's a lot to undo.
Great, thank you. Yes, so if there are specific locations, aside from, or additionally to the neighborhood loading zones, there are other regulations that we can utilize to address the issue. And hopefully the program does not attract any new vehicles, so any new trucks to the block. It will really decrease, the decrease unwanted parking behaviors that are currently occurring. So hopefully we can additioning to the neighborhood loading zone, we can hopefully come up with other solutions if there are specific issues as well.
I'm sorry, the one thing I forgot to mention that's really important. So right now the buses are having to load and unload in the second lane because of this. The huge problem is people with walkers, people with wheelchairs. It does not allow the accessibility that people need on the buses, and that to me is the main problem.
Great, thank you.
Sure, and we can certainly take the feedback about the transit piece to our colleagues at DOT and the Transit Development Unit.
Wendy, I saw that you had your hand up. Is it still up?
Yeah, no, they answered the question.
Oh, well, that knocks that out. I just had a question before. One of the slides stated that one of the criteria was the actual bus drop-offs and pickups for the loading zones. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. If you want to go back to that slide or not, I just wanted to see if that was true or not. Yeah, the existing bus stops, that's going to be part of the loading zone. Maybe I just wasn't clear when you said that.
I'm sorry, this bullet might be a little bit unclear.
No, it's on me.
The criteria that what was intended here is we are focusing our study and expansion in blocks that have existing bus routes and bike lanes. So we'll be able to clear the blocks for these where they have these additional infrastructures and bus routes. So the bus could theoretically run smoother, and there'll be less vehicles parked on the bike lanes to clear the bike lanes.
Okay, thank you. I needed that for my clarity. I am going to take a few questions from the community. I know there's a lot of interest in this specific item. Please raise your hands and I will call on you in order. Give you about 2 minutes to ask your question, and then we'll move from there. The first person I see is Jeremy Fisher with his hand up. Go ahead, Mr. Fisher.
Hey there. Yeah, I was just hoping to speak in support of the neighborhood loading zone program. So I live on 4th Street between Avenue A and B, and specifically the far east side of 4th Street near Avenue B. It's a really narrow street with parking on both sides and a bike lane, and there's a lot of through traffic. So if there's a larger car or a truck double parked, or if there's a truck trying to get past a car that's double parked, it backs up traffic really quickly and it fully blocks the bike lane. There's always a lot of honking and yelling. So like at a minimum, people lay on their horns for a few minutes. If there's like a gas truck that's servicing a restaurant, they might be fully stopped blocking traffic for 10 minutes. I've seen it escalate to the point of people getting out of their cars, almost starting fist fights. It happens most days. It's pretty disruptive, especially working from home. It happened about 5 minutes ago also, where an 18-wheeler was blocked by a double parked car, started honking, but thankfully it only happened for a few minutes. I've seen emergency vehicles blocked. People use the space in front of fire hydrants as loading zones already, but they're almost always in use. So like looking out my window now, there's someone using the fire hydrant for that. So I just think that if there was a kind of permanent loading zone solution for this, it would really kind of solve this problem completely. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. May, is that you? May Lee? Go right ahead, May.
Yeah, so I'm sorry if I missed this, but I was looking at the website and, it was phased in different neighborhoods, but is this all, the loading zones, is this all to be added in a certain window of time, or is it ongoing? Like in perpetuity, is it ongoing in perpetuity? So let's say I think of something next year, or somebody else thinks of something next year, or a month down the road, or 2 months, or do they still somehow,
Yes.
put in a request?
Yes. So let me sorry, I stopped sharing my screen, but let me go back to the our portal. We will have 2 different types of maps where community members can suggest a location. One of them will be for new expanding neighborhoods such as Community District 3 in Manhattan, where people can suggest initially suggest the locations for neighborhood loading zone. And additionally to those types of maps, we will also have our infill map where we have selected the neighborhoods that have neighborhood loading zones already existed in where community members would be able to suggest additional neighborhood loading zones in those communities. And these locations will also be reviewed by us on a rolling basis.
And then later on, if it's decided that, well, a neighborhood loading zone wasn't a good idea, it could be undone. I mean,
yes,
with a certain process?
We'll probably look at it in an individual basis. If we deem that the neighborhood loading zone has not been utilized as well, then I think that will be looked at individually for different locations.
Okay.
Just to follow up on May's question, since there's a lot of talk of self-enforcement there, if as board members of and we notice some of these loading zones are not working, could we theoretically bring it back on a 1-by-1 basis to DOT? Like, just to follow up on May's thing, if we notice things and we want to bring that up, if that specific loading zone is not working.
We will definitely like to hear from the community members on specific loading zones and how they have been been used. We're always interested in hearing about our project, and we can definitely, I believe, discuss more if there has been a severe issue with a specific loading zone. We can definitely take a look at those as well.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna go right back to Susan and then Ms. Green. Susan and then Ms. Green.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, as far as, revisiting, we do that in the office with DOT all the time. We just had a bike corral. So I wouldn't, there's a process for that.
Thank you. Ms. Green, go right ahead. I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. Am I muted now?
You are good.
Okay. I have a suggestion which has to do with everything you're saying and has nothing to do with everything you're saying. And that is a different idea. I think one of the biggest bottlenecks in New York City all over is construction. And I know it's not the role of a community board to create legislation, but it's just an idea that I want to put forth, is we shouldn't have construction on two sides of the street simultaneously. There should be some way to limit construction so it's only on one side of the street, because the biggest bottlenecks are when both sides of the street are constructing things and demolishing things simultaneously. That's number one of the idea. And the other idea is, why does construction have to involve more than one lane of the street? Why can't we mandate that all construction and all demolition only takes up one lane of the street? And I know that this is something you're not exactly addressing, but maybe it's a novel idea, but I'm thinking I can't stand the bottlenecks when I'm in a car or even walking on a street, when there's no way to walk, there's no way to ride a bike, there's no way to ride a car, there's no way to do anything when there's so much construction on one street. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Green. All right. If anybody else would like to ask a question of the DOT.
Sorry, I couldn't raise my hand. This is Hochwald.
Mr. Wall, go right ahead. You can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. May I share my screen? I have some.
What do you need to share your screen for, Mr. Wall?
I wanted to echo Susan's words. I feel that DOT is going very baby steps here, and the need for loading zones is much bigger than specific locations here and there on specific blocks. I would like to share an example that I took this morning on Avenue A, that it exemplifies that, how an ambulance cannot go. It's blocked by traffic by one delivery truck blocking the east side of the street, and one delivery truck blocks the west side of the street. The M14A cannot pass the first delivery truck. It's stuck in the northbound lane when it goes southbound. The need is twofolded. There's the need for commercial loading zones on the main streets, but every residential street needs as well the loading zones. Again, I would love to share my screen now because I have many examples to share with the community.
You can go with one example. I'll give you one example right now.
I can send the others. We send them to the office. I could forward them to DOT.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
What's the process that I should do?
Just send it to me and I'll forward it to DOT.
Okay, I would love to do that. Here is, which was here before Jeremy was here. Here is the example of today on 4th Street and Avenue B. As you can see, you can't access, internet is slow here, but it's everywhere. It's on every residential block. There's no access for pedestrians, for bicycle riders. Here is Avenue B between 10th
it's between
and
11th
Street.
and 12th, yeah.
That's right.
Something like
Yeah, it's every day. It's next to a
No,
car.
we're at 2 minutes now, just so you know. We're
Sorry?
at 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Paul, we're at 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm hearing. All right, final share.
And so on and on. Yeah. Oh, and here is the most important video. As you can see, it's an ambulance that cannot go. It has the emergency light, it has the siren on, but because of the lack of loading zones, it has no emergency access at all. the whole curb is just metered parking, but not commercial parking. So that's why the ambulance cannot go though. So please ramp it up. Thank you.
Sorry, my mute button stuck. Okay. So yeah, I think that's great visual evidence for DOT to take a look at, as you know, what these neighborhood loading zones are going to look like. The streets are narrow and pretty small. And Susan, we're going to forward all of that to DOT, correct? All right. All right.
I would just, sorry, Paul, if
yeah,
I
go ahead.
You know, we really value this level of detailed feedback. I think this is going to be really helpful for us as we think about where locations that would be the areas that would be most need. So we rely also on you as being on the ground experts. But again, also, we will remind you that we have our portal that we can encourage you to put the pins on specific locations where you think these needs are as well. We're more than happy to accept feedback, however you send it to us, but we also want it to be as intuitive as possible so that you can share feedback on our portal.
Thank you, Ms. Mendez. I appreciate that. I think if you can send the information to the portal to the office, so that way we can post it on our social media sites and send it out throughout the community as well. If there's no other questions from the committee, I think we're going to wrap up this agenda item. And we look forward to hearing how this improves. I believe it's going to start getting installed over the summer, correct?
So we're looking at probably over summer or late summer, depending on the timelines and the review periods. So we'll definitely keep it updated.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, so that's a start. If there's no other questions for the committee, I want to thank the members of DOT who came on for this specific item and for presenting for us tonight. Thank you for coming on, Ms. Mendez, Mr. Ross. Thank you. All right. I'm sorry, I'm just a little slow in my computer today. Okay, so next I have the bus stop application for XR Happy Tour Inc. We haven't done a bus stop application since we were all face to face and prior to the pandemic. Who is here to present for the bus company?
I'm the one. My name is Hai Dong Liang.
Hey, how are you? So you want to just talk about this application that you're putting in?
Yeah, we are trying to apply for the bus stop located on 24th Street, 24 Bowery Street, and we providing transportation from the 24 Bowery Street to Connecticut, and the schedules is basically from Monday to Sunday, and the arrival time is 12 p.m.
I don't know if I froze there or not. Did Hadong, are you still talking or did you cut off? Okay.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just so Wendy, could you pull up the application? I think I sent it to you earlier.
Yep, just give me a second.
Yeah. Oh, let me give you a share screen. Go ahead. You should be able to share.
My computer is being slow tonight as well.
It's everybody's internet's on the fritz today.
The PDF file, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you maybe about an hour before the meeting.
Yes.
It was also posted onto the website. The application is available for the public to view on the website. There is a hyperlink just in case, but we are pulling it up as a share screen. Yeah, can you actually scroll down to the application itself?
To the questionnaire, or should I go
Yeah,
further?
yep, keep going. Yeah, can you just scroll
It's
down
just
a little?
lagging.
Yeah, it's just lagging. Okay, it's just lagging. Okay. Mr. Liang, am I pronouncing that correctly? Liang?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you said pickup will be at 24 Bowery,
Yes.
and that's already a bus stop, correct?
Yes. That's a MTA bus stop.
It's an MTA bus stop, and your arrivals, you're gonna pick up at 8 a.m.
Yes, AM.
and your drop off is at 8 p.m.
Around 7 to 8.
Around 7 to 8 in the 7 to 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
So it's only one pickup and one drop off a day. You're going from New York to Connecticut. It sounds like Mohegan Sun to me.
Yeah. Yes, it's a movie.
Okay. So where are the tickets being sold again? Only online or?
It's in office located in Main Street. It's in Queens.
So the ticket, you have to buy the ticket in Queens to get the bus in Manhattan.
And also they sold the ticket in Mohegan Sun.
And they sell the tickets in Mohegan Sun.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to go to Mohegan Sun on this bus line,
you
have to buy the ticket in Queens to get the bus
because
to get the bus in Manhattan.
Actually, we are not the one that's selling the tickets. It's my agent. They sell the ticket. We only do provide transportation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're selling the ticket in Queens though.
Yeah.
So there's no area to buy the tickets right there in that immediate area.
I think they have online selling the ticket, but I'm not sure. I have to confirm with them.
You don't know if they have an online
Yeah.
ticket program. Okay. So there was no way to know. Okay. So after the pandemic, you said you might need to apply for more arrivals and departure times on the same location.
Yeah. Because before the COVID, we have 5 arrival and 5 departure.
Okay. And
for the normal schedule.
Okay. Let's keep scrolling down. See, you applied a couple weeks ago. So I'm a little confused on the opportunity for public comment. You put the wrong date. Today would have been the day to have public comment.
Oh, so I have to put today's date?
That's too late now.
Yeah. So there's nobody.
This page I really post on the bus stop.
All right. Committee, any questions? I'm a little stuck. Go ahead. Susan, did you have a question?
I was going to suggest that we put this back on next month so that he can post it with the correct date for people to comment.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen. I thought I had a question about this when I saw the date originally when I saw it last night. I think, I have no problem pushing this agenda item back to next month in June, where you have the correct date, which I believe is June 8th. I'm not incredibly sure, but I think it's June 8th for our transportation committee meeting next month. And you want to give ample time for any community members to come on to the meeting to talk about this specific agenda item, this bus stop application. And I think, and I would like is if you can have the online question answered as well. Like if you can talk to the agent and say if they'll be selling the tickets online.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we're not gonna approve or disapprove of anything today. We're gonna push this back to the next month in June. Is that all right?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so yeah, just when you redo the application, make sure you put the correct date, which I believe is June 8th. If not, just confirm with the office. So that way you're
Well-
able to get this bus stop application. Go ahead, Susan.
We'll send a new set of materials.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Got to hear it, and I think we'll be a little bit more prepared for it come next month in June.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Okay, so that takes care of the bus stop application. That will probably come back next month with the proper materials and the proper dates. Okay, we're moving right along. Okay, so this is an item that originally was going to put on or not put on. It's and it is on now. I believe Susan Steinberg from the Stuyvesant Town Tenants Association, Peter Cooper Village as well.
Yes, I'm here with Ann Greenberg, and we want to co-present on this item. And Ann needs to have a screen share.
Sure. So how long do you think the presentation is, just to make sure?
Maybe about 10 minutes. We could try to cut it back if it's too
No,
long.
that's fine. I'll get. If it's going a little long, I'll unfortunately interrupt, but I'll get it. I'll get in there. But thank you for coming on, and we will hear this item. Just a little more clarity for the committee. I know this power plant is technically outside of our district. It's technically located in CB6, but the power plant does affect the northern part of CB3, the areas that affect Campos Plaza, Haven Plaza, south side of 14th Street, 12th, 11th Street, down that area, and CBA first. But this power plant is specifically located on Avenue C between 15th and 16th, right? It's that big construction I see going up right there in Stuytown. So I know you guys are going to present on it. So go right ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Susan Steinberg. I'm president of the Stuyvesant Town Peter Cooper Village Tenants Association. And in 2018, management notified the community that they were going to build a combined heat and power plant, and that it would be producing steam for heat and hot water for 24 Stuyvesant Town buildings. And if you notice, it looks like a relatively low structure. It originally was faced in brick so that it would match the buildings. It had its lovely landscaping on top, and you don't see stacks. Well, here is the reality today. It is a big monster. It touches the buildings, which the original rendering didn't show. If you look on the left, you can see it's practically blocking a window, and it's right across the street from the Con Ed plant, which many of you remember from the power plant expansion fight of 2000. And it's definitely going to add pollution to the neighborhood. In addition, the management is planning an even bigger plant on 20th Street. And between the two plants will be added pollution in the area. So next slide, please. This is the plan that they have for the 20th Street. I want you to notice the stacks in the foreground, the two buildings. These stacks are going to be emitting all kinds of noxious stuff that we'll talk about a little later. And, it's really, the tenants are really having their views obstructed. Okay, so there's plenty that we don't know. We haven't seen the air quality studies. They're still being looked at by the Department of Environmental Conservation. So we don't know what the stacks will emit at what temperature, what the ultimate level of NOx will be, what the level of particulate matter, your favorite 2.5, will be. And in all actuality, it's a use that really should not be permitted under zoning. because the electricity it generates is not going to be used for the benefit of residents. It's going back to the grid. And so we're concerned about how we're going to protect our community and our nearby neighbors in Community Board 3. Anne, would you like to take it up, please?
Sure. We all in our district, we have something like the second worst air in the city, but CD3 also does not have very good air relative to the rest of the city. And especially the particulate matter number is not great. And the city's latest report seems to put it even higher than it was previously. 2019 is really the latest date for anything. This shows what you've got in what the city is calling Union Square Lower East Side. It's zip codes 02, 03, and 09. And nitrogen dioxide, you can see 21.6 in your area. Overall in the city, 15.6. The numbers are usually higher and they're trending over time worse in 3 of these categories. From 2018, we saw some very high numbers in our district, which is right across the street, but Lower East Side and Chinatown here, we also have a number that's high in terms of what else is going on in the city. Really, one of the things that's a big concern is the particulate matter. This is the stuff that gets in your lungs. It's really tiny. You get cancer. It just, it's unavoidable. It's around us. We're all breathing it, and we really need to minimize it and get that number down as much as we can. But the nitrogen dioxide is also high in our areas. You can see down here, Lower East Side, Chinatown, 22.4. Up here for us, which is right across the street, 26.65. And then collectively, what's called NOx is also linked to increased emergency department visits and hospitalizations, especially for asthma, which is a big concern in your area. So partly and it affects young people, and there'll be a slide giving you some data on that, but this shows our this is Avenue C right here, right on top of a playground. And then sort of off over here, if I had the rest of the map, you would see Murphy's Brothers Playground. You would see other open areas to the south of us, even as far as Tompkins Square Park. So the point is here that is really of concern is the child asthma, which you can see in your area for children ages 5 to 17. This is from 2016. This is the latest information available. You can see your area, this is a number, 264.9, higher than the rest of Manhattan, way higher than the rest of New York, and definitely worse than the rest of the city. This number is 264.9 visits per 10,000 residents for children 5 to 17. And all these things we're breathing in are bad for seniors who are also vulnerable. And your district, 41% of the population is older than 45. Same is true in our area, although it's distributed a little bit differently. And then what's really another really important factor is the environmental justice factor, which is, are people who are already subject to difficult conditions and situations, are they the ones bearing the brunt of this additional pollution in the area? And when this study is going to be done, as our owner will have to do, they're going to have to look within half a mile of the plant. So this shows where this Avenue C plant is, this red dot, right across from Compost Plaza, right near all this other NYCHA housing, not that far from Tompkins Square. And I know, there are other community gardens and open spaces. And on the Lower East Side, 30.2% of the people live with an income below the federal poverty level. So this is a very real issue in your district. A little bit in ours, but much more in yours.
I forgot to tell you something very important about this plant. It's burning natural gas, which is a fossil fuel. And just about every responsible agency And even the White House is trying to move away into cleaner energy. So I just wanted to mention that. So in addition to the pollution, we have a zoning issue because in reality, the cogeneration plant, which is what the combined heat and power plant really is, does not fit the definition of accessory use. It has to be related to the principal use. It has to be in one zoning lot, and it has to be for the benefit of the occupants, employees, owners, residents, etc. Next slide, please. So in point of fact, this CHP is not customarily found in connection with residential uses. And this power plant the electricity is going back to the grid. So it's not being used for the benefit of tenants and really should not be allowed. And the reason we're bringing up the zoning so much is that if this ever happens in your neighborhood, we're cluing you as to an issue that you need to look at carefully.
Yeah, and if I could put in another point to that, it's not as though Con Ed is reducing its output just because Blackstone is building a power plant to reduce its costs. Whatever gets produced on our property and whatever emissions there are, Con Ed on 14th Street, they're just going to keep pumping along at the same rate because they've got people who will take their electricity, their steam, what have you. So this is an additive thing, and we're talking about equipment that's only supposed to last 20 years, which brings it to being maybe out of service by the time all these other new technologies and standards come in.
So now we have an issue of building downwash. Not only winds, but structures in an area of a stack can influence the behavior. And if a stack is less than the height of good engineering practice, then the stack is subject to building downwash, and which usually increases the pollution at concentrations at ground level. Next, please, Ann. So are the stacks being used for the CHP at Stuyvesant Town high enough? No, according to their own engineers, they aren't, they don't reach good engineering practice height. And so the downwash is going to happen from the emissions from the stacks. And that's going to affect the playgrounds. It's going to affect anybody who's walking, playing, even in their apartments. And I seem to remember during the Con Ed fight, there were plenty of people who had gunk on their windows from the emissions from the plants. So we need a holistic approach to a major project like this. All government agencies need to coordinate. They don't talk to each other now. They don't know what's going on. And so one may be issuing permits and one may be saying, no, you can't have them. Con Ed is already using these power plants more efficiently than a single use would be. Con Ed is still testing our soil for manufactured gas plant. And we don't know what's going to happen when they start trenching for the piping. We need a serious policy about unlimited additive fossil fuel and a progressive policy on energy sources. Next, please.
Oops, sorry.
So where does the Department of Buildings and Department of Environmental Conservation stand? Well, I'd like to say at the outset that our federal, state, and city elected officials are supporting us and reaching out to government agencies on our behalf. So the Department of Buildings has been approving permits. Then when we protested and indicated that the zoning should not be permitted, they issued a letter of intent to revoke approvals and permits. However, now that the owner has had an opportunity to come back to them, they're saying, oh, you know, we did an audit and they've answered all our objections except for 3, and they're satisfied that the plant complies with zoning, and we intend to push back on that. With respect to the Department of Environmental Conservation, they halted work on Avenue C because it was in violation, and they withdrew their permits. They also mentioned that the 2 plants can't be considered as 2 separate projects, but as one. And so management withdrew all its permits and it's started all over from square one. However, the DEC is getting rather close to the end of its review of air quality studies, air modeling protocols, and the like, and has let management of Stuytown know that possibly in June, they're going to hold a public environmental justice hearing on the plants, and that stakeholders within a half a mile of the plant can present their views. So, you know, what are the risks? Worse air quality for CB3 as well as our community, negative health impacts for both our community, and just being a bad neighbor. Really need your support. And our ask of you is this: when we find out exactly when that environmental justice public hearing is, we hope that CB3 will attend or will submit written testimony, will come and I'm assuming it's going to be virtual, and present their views on this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I believe the environmental committee chair from CB6 is on. Is that correct? Is that Mr. O'Keefe?
I am here. That is correct. If you can hear me.
Yes. Hi. How are you? Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming on tonight. So my question is actually for you. I know there's been, you know, we've had some email communication over the past few hours or a day or so about where this lies within CB6 and what actions have been taken. So if you can just give me a little summary of what the position for CB6 is before CB3 takes on any position. I just want to know exactly where CB6 stands on all of this.
Well, thank you, Paul. I actually wanted to be an observer, but I'm happy to touch base a little bit on committee. By the way, Susan, that's great that you mentioned fossil fuel, and there's some information in that presentation I don't believe I've seen. I would love to get a copy of that. Truly city agency coordination is key, as Susan mentioned. It's interesting with the Department of Buildings. It's arguably been trigger happy in regards to permit approvals. I heard this from construction and design staff regarding another issue on scaffolding, especially sidewalk sheds regarding POP space. So the fact that they might be a little bit trigger happy on permits is not a surprise to me. The committee, that being the Committee Board 6 Environment and Parks Committee, enjoyed a presentation from the Tenants Association in our January meeting. Stuyvesant Town's then general manager, there had been 2 general managers since then, for keeping score at home. The then general manager proposed in the meeting a working group that would include the Tenants Association and address the association's concerns, or so it said. The Tenants Association did agree to the activation of such a working group. And look, we remain committed to hear from the Tenants Association whenever it has reached a point where it wants the committee to readdress the plant. We think this is a really important issue. It will affect the health of not only the current generations, but generations of the many families, not only in Stuytown, but in areas including CB3. This is a serious priority matter for us. There was not a resolution proposed at that January meeting. Of course, as chair, I was not permitted to present a resolution. That's pretty much where we are. So you can take that as you want, but it was great, Susan and Ann, to hear your presentation. Thank you.
Oh, may I just make a comment? When we left CB6 with this commitment on the part of management for a working group, they then proceeded to change managers twice since that person made the commitment, and therefore things just kind of got up in the air and nothing really was going on. And they finally just very recently reached out to us, but said that they would not meet with us unless we presented them with questions. So we presented them with quite a list of questions, which they just only very recently got around to saying we're nearly through answering them and maybe we can have a meeting. So, there was nothing going on, and that's why CB6 hadn't gotten around to a resolution because nothing had happened until
Yeah,
very.
it's
No, no,
interesting that it was actually the next day after the commitment was made by the general manager. The next day he announced his resignation. Don't try to link those two. I don't think that's fair. That was just coincidental. But yes, Susan, that's a really good point. Again, I just want to reemphasize that we're ready to readdress what needs to be done going forward as soon as Susan or Ann gives us the nod. This will not leave our radar. It will stay on. It's again extremely important. I'm repeating myself, but hopefully that gives you some idea of what the committee stance is on this.
No, I appreciate it because right now we just had all that email communication. And I just wanted to put that on the record for our purposes. Susan Stetzer, go right ahead. I see your hand up.
Yeah. Now, Susan, do you know the half mile boundary from the plant in CB3?
Actually, I don't know where it ends.
Because I think we were trying to draft a draft resolution, and I felt like we didn't have the technical information we needed to make it very strong. Because for one thing, I don't think it's correct to talk about the pollution in CB3, because for instance, in Chinatown, which may not be very affected by this, you have very bad pollution from Canal Street. And I think, talking about the environmental justice areas, particularly the NYCHA areas on the waterfront right below Stuyvesant Town, is very strong. We've been there, done that. So I just feel like it would be helpful to have a lot more specific information that would carry more weight and be more accurate.
Yeah, may I respond? I looked up all this information. I'm basically working with what the city puts out. And from one year to the next, they may not put things in the same areas in the same way. And it's a little difficult to piece together what they've actually done. So that's why you may see a little bit of, things not lining up, but we can try to figure out what the half mile radius is. I work with like 10 city blocks,
So I think for the 14th Street plant, Susan, you can correct me if I'm remembering wrong. I think we had thought about 6th Street was about the boundary. Was that true?
I can't remember. But I know that I do want to point out the electeds are, they can ask for a larger boundary. The electeds can ask for a mile radius.
Well, but the point is that what's most accurate? The half mile below 14th Street is an environmental justice area. Not all of CB3 is an environmental justice area, but the area directly impacted by this is an environmental justice area. So I think it's really good to focus on that. Also, there are a lot of people of Puerto Rican descent in that specific area who have a much higher rate of asthma. I do remember this all from before, and I checked it to look it up again. So one thing I was wondering, is it possible for the state electeds to ask for the hearing to be delayed to July so that more of this specific information could be gathered? That would, I think, make it very strong for the CB3 area.
Now, yes, I will certainly ask them. I just want to say that this June was kind of approximate. It was never absolutely a deadline. The agency, the DEC, said to management, well, maybe by the end of May, we'll have gotten through most of the permitting process and it will be time for environmental justice. And of course, they need to give 30 days. So, that's where we got to June, but I'll certainly ask the electeds to ask the DEC to delay environmental justice until July.
Because I'm going to tell you, we really spent a lot of time in the office trying taking the information you sent and trying to research it, because we had numbers, but the numbers didn't really mean anything to us. You know, are they high, are they low, what's the documentation? And, you know, in order, if the committee decides they want to testify, we want to have the strongest argument possible. And
Well, I can email you the presentation, and the presentation, I've listed the source of a lot of those numbers and where, you know, with the URLs, so you should be able to find what I found.
okay, so I think if we look at the environmental justice area within the half mile of the plant, rather than talking about CB3, I think it'll actually be a lot stronger argument.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay.
Yeah, like there was a potential draft that we did draft up, but you know, I said we're gonna need something stronger, especially if we know that CB6 hasn't put anything potentially yet to testify with in terms of a resolution. I don't want to step on any toes either from CB6, who's been handling this for quite a while, and you guys just came to us over the past month. So I do want to hold off on any potential resolutions on our end until we get stronger stuff, so we can vote on something stronger than what we have right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I do want to support this because I don't live far. Personally, I don't live far from Stuyvesant Town. So, and I see the power plant. I see it going up. I've seen it going up. I walk by it all the time. So I see exactly what it will do and affect this part of the district. So.
And Paul, if I can jump in, this is Kevin again. I certainly can commit. Our next committee meeting for Environment and Parks is June 1st. Okay. I look forward to hopefully having that on the agenda. Maybe, Susan, there's something we can activate before then. But at worst case scenario, as far as a timeline, we can readdress that in what, 3 weeks? 2 weeks, maybe.
June 1st, yeah, it's about 2.5, 3 weeks. All right, yeah, so I'm not gonna put anything, we're not gonna motion for a draft reso for today, but I want to hear back. Is that all right? I just want to make sure if that's all right. That we can probably put this back on for maybe our June agenda. Is that something we can think about, Susan? Is that
Yeah.
But what if the hearing is going to go forward as planned?
That's the other time.
The electeds can, I was given good information. They can also ask for an extension of time. They can ask for 60 days before the public hearing is held from the time they are ready to hold it. So we'll work all angles. We'll get it extended one way or another.
Susan Stetzer, just a quick thing. Just want to make sure we can push this for June, correct?
We couldn't put it back. Yeah, I'm sorry. I asked a question.
It froze. I think it froze. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I was asking is, can we put this on the June agenda and Susan and Ann would come back again? And in the meantime, we can have conversations to get more information.
Okay.
Yeah, and we can be a little bit more prepared, and I can have the committee have a little bit more materials to read off of before ahead of time, and we can get a lot of good questions in there.
We have, you know, tons and tons of information, probably more than you really want to look at.
Not true. I want to look at it. No.
Yeah, me too. Don't underestimate the nerdiness of the Environment and Parks Committee.
Okay, geek out, guys.
All right. No, yeah. We thank you. We thank you for coming on, and I know you guys brought this up at full board a couple weeks ago, and we brought it back here, and you know we'll move. We'll move with in accordance with what CB6 is going to do as well. So it could be a lot stronger.
And if you want to get a head start on our website, we have put up a lot of things like letters that our electeds wrote and things we got back from the DOB. So there's already some stuff online.
Right.
Right, and I think it's worth adding, and that with the mayor making the proclamation of sorts a couple of weeks ago, saying about more natural gas, no more hookups, no more new gas stations, that sort of thing, then this is really in that swing zone of making sure the natural gas, fossil fuels.
Absolutely what everybody is saying, and they're just going backwards.
All right. So thank you for coming on tonight. I'm gonna, since we're gonna push this back to June, with more information, I'm gonna withhold any questions tonight, and we're gonna invite Ms. Steinberg and Ms. Greenberg back in June. Go ahead, Ms. Greenberg.
Certain questions.
Committee, from the committee, I'll take committee. If the committee has any certain questions right now, you can go right ahead and ask. I'll take committee questions.
And please come to the June 1st, if you want, community meeting for Environment and Parks at 7 o'clock for Community Board 6. We'd love to have questions there.
Thank you. Does the committee have any other questions? Any questions at all? No.
Can
Susan?
oh, I'm sorry. Can I mention something that does affect your community about Con Ed? And that's that since 9/11, Con Ed has expanded its reach. They've blocked off the 14th Street entrance to the FDR Drive. They've taken over the soccer fields, and that is your community. So Con Ed has extended its reach.
We're very aware of that.
Yeah, I know. I missed the 15th Street exit of the FDR Drive. I miss it. Anything else from the committee? No? If not, thank you, Ms. Steinberg, Ms. Greenberg, Mr. O'Keefe. I appreciate everyone coming on tonight and joining CB3 for our transportation meeting today.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay. Oh, it moved a lot quicker than I anticipated. Okay, so our final agenda item for the night before we adjourn. I sent the big district needs link out to everyone in the email yesterday. It's the entire CB3's district needs. So we're gonna start looking at our district needs statement. Basically, we are going to see what we need to start updating, what we may need to start putting in. We're not making any big changes tonight or anything like that. I think this is a time to start looking at it completely. In fact, I think I'm going to share my screen instead because I think I can pull it up quicker. There we go. Go ahead, Susan. You can take yourself off mute.
I just wondered if anyone had any questions about, what the district needs is. I mean, I guess everyone or most everyone has done this before. So I just didn't know if there were any questions about the document in general.
When did we finalize it last year? Was it in October? Or
yeah, basically we finalized it in July, but we didn't vote on it till October. And the thing that's very hard to focus on is that this is for the year starting a year from July 1st. So this is the statement for July that will start in July 2022.
Right. So I just pulled it up on my end. Can everyone see it? I just want to make sure because I can't see any one of you right now. If you can see it, great. I think sometimes my share screen capabilities suck on here. So this is our statement. It was about 3 pages. This is what we finalized last year, a few months ago with the pedestrian traffic safety. Lee, I know you sent us an email to the office, I believe it was Saturday, about some issues going on with, I guess from before I even came onto the board, there's these issues around that area, right? that you were mentioning has been going on for 3 years, those dual turns and all that stuff. So, maybe there's ways we can start putting in about enforcement of transportation district needs. I don't know if that's something we can think about, Susan, on the district needs statement. But
well, I think we're looking for strategies. I would not be talking about enforcement in specific areas as opposed to strategies. And to be really honest, a lot of those problems aren't going to be resolved until we have congestion pricing.
That's already starting to look like it's getting more and more back on the back burner.
Really?
I don't know.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was just coming back.
It looks like it, and then it looks like it gets killed after a while. So I don't know.
I thought Washington was pushing it. You want to go like paragraph or section by section, or?
I might have lost Paul. Yeah, his internet went out. Hold on.
Did we lose Paul?
Yeah. Does everyone, I'm going to put this in the chat so everyone has it.
Michelle, are we going section by section reading this, or what do we?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I just asked Paul, and he disappeared. I think he lost.
Hold on. Yeah.
Oh, she's calling him.
Susan, just a clarifying question. So
sure.
Is district need, so is it something that we approve by July? Does it have to be done by July?
We finish it by July, but it often takes a lot of research when you start deciding on what you want to write. It often, because everything has to be documented. So it often takes a lot of research. And, what we really want to do is look at the conditions in the community and assess the needs that, that arise from them. For instance, the one perennial we have is that we're underserved for public transportation. And we always ask for more bus routes and stuff.
Got it, thank you.
And it's really difficult, particularly, I'm going to say difficult to do right now because of all the huge changes because of COVID that are happening. And we're supposed to predict what we need a year from July. So it's an extremely difficult thing to do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Susan, do you want us, let's just go through section by section and we can say if we still think that these are needs. Does that work?
Well, yeah, we can do that. Does it need to be beefed up? Does it need to be less? And then we can say, are there new things that should be added?
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, so let's start with accessibility and safety then. I don't think that this has been solved in the past year, right?
I would think, we'll certainly update the statistics, but I think all those issues are the same.
And do we want to add anything though about accessibility to the train stations?
Well, that's something that's already being worked on with the text amendment, so I don't know what we would add. Problem with that is a lot of it is state money.
Okay. Okay, and so do we need to update these stats also about the trash?
We always do. We automatically, the office will pretty much automatically do all the stats.
Okay.
So
assuming that's still going to be a problem.
Pardon?
Assuming that this is still an issue, that will still be high on the traffic crash fatalities.
I would suspect that we will be.
Okay.
But we'll check it. The next section also has to be just researched again to make sure that these are still the same 6 intersections with high accidents.
Okay. Is this, I mean, I would say, I don't know, I mean, I think if everyone remembers the presentation that I did in December with like the illegal left turns and stuff, Susan, would this be the place to do that? Like, I don't know if there's been actual fatalities in those places. Like, you know what I mean?
But
I mean, Essex and Delancey is one of the places I highlighted, so.
But that's getting down into very specific nitty gritty as opposed to these are the areas that need the action. I don't think we should be prescribing specifically what the action would be.
No, not that.
We don't know.
Just like if we need to identify any, I guess.
Well, you mean to add sections?
Yeah, or any problems that have been, exacerbated by like increased traffic due to COVID or something like that. I don't know.
What we can do, if you want us to give us intersections that you think might fall into that category, Paul's back. We can look up the crash statistics.
Okay.
So what you give us.
For anyone else from the committee too, if there are any like particular intersections that you're concerned about.
I'm using you in the general sense.
Yeah.
So the next section, the coordination and planning, we took that into our own hands. And I with Margaret's office, we called this meeting, interagency meeting, which we just had about 3 weeks ago, which was very productive. And we decided we might have them 4 times a year. So we just, like I said, we just took it into our own hands.
All right. Sorry. I
Yeah,
usually tell
we
my
missed you.
I usually tell my students pay your bills, but I should have just said that to myself. But my internet literally just crapped out. My apologies, everyone. All right. So I see we did some of the potential crash statistics. Is that what we just did?
Well, we got down to the coordination and planning, which I don't know if it's worthwhile keeping in because, like I was just saying, we took that into our own hands with Margaret's office, and we're having those meetings. So I would suggest that you might want to take that section out.
Oh, potentially taking that section out. Is that
Yeah, because we're doing it. We gave up on them and we're doing it.
Okay, let me see it. So eventually, okay, potentially taking that section out. Do we need to potentially, I'm sorry, I'm skipping right next to delivery and curbside management. Do you think we're going to need to add stuff, especially with the potential of this neighborhood loading zone coming on?
Well, that's why it's so hard to write this needs statement for a year from July when we don't know what we're going to be doing. I'm going to assume it's not, the problem isn't going to be cured in the next year. So we might want to say something that the problem exists, that we're currently working with DOT to mitigate, but that we're going to have, I'm sure this is going to be a multi-year thing.
Yeah. Okay, so this maybe We don't have any statistics on any of these, of the amount of deliveries that happen within the district, right?
I don't know if anybody does. I've never heard of them.
Okay.
Maybe if any committee member might think of some association associated with trucks or deliveries or something, if there's somebody that they can, try and find an organization that might have that information.
Yeah, just to make that a little bit stronger on that delivery stuff, like saying about on average, CD3 gets this amount of deliveries a day and stuff like that. Maybe something like that can happen.
Yeah, I mean, so the office will help a lot, but we can't do everything, particularly.
No, I understand.
Particularly with Jim leaving in 3 weeks. So yeah, if maybe a committee member might, just try to Google and see what they could find.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, well, maybe that's something I can try to track down. We haven't really been dealing with buses over the past year.
COVID.
Yeah. Intercity bus management. I don't know what needs to change on there, if anything. Like today was our first potential bus application in over a year, so I don't know what we need to change on there, if we got to change anything.
We might have to say that, we can't assess it because of COVID, and that we're going to have to reassess it next year.
Okay. All right, so let's move down to public transportation.
First bullet still true.
Yeah. Many residents served by the subway system with 15%. That's still true.
Well, we
go ahead.
we'll check up. We automatically update those every year.
Okay. And those new bus lanes that are coming to, they're going to talk about it next month.
A and D.
Yeah, on A and D. It's gonna be interesting on D. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna input that anywhere on here, are we? With the way that works.
No, I don't think we need the A and D, but we might want to. I'm just doing a fast read. Well, the second bullet point I would say is still true.
Right. There's a need for more east-west bus service south of 8th Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. The M8, he said east-west south of 8th Street. There's only one bus that goes across Houston, M21, and its service is limited.
It's like once an hour.
Only time it's kind of busy is early morning, where there's maybe 4 or 5 buses in 1 hour, and that's not a lot. Yeah, it's like the only one that goes really across. So yeah, that second bullet point is still true. There's the next bullet point: creative measures to reduce traffic congestion. This is all still true. We don't know if is there a way we're going to find a stat about ridership dropping during COVID or no?
I don't know. Again, if maybe one of the committee members can try with the MTA or New York City, see if there is anything.
Yeah, just in case there's a justification of like reducing bus times and anything of that sort. Okay, I can find that.
And also, if you can come up with specific questions, maybe I can, that we can answer. I could try and get them from the MTA. I won't guarantee.
So when are we looking to finalize this? Again in October or?
Well, July, because after
July.
I mean, I would suggest probably voting in October, but after July, you have to do the budget priorities. So if you don't have this essentially finished, except maybe like to add a stat, you won't have time to do that and the budget priorities.
Right. Okay. So we want to wrap this up kind of in July. All right. So we should come back with questions in June.
Or, I mean, for
or
question,
ahead of time.
you can send me a question anytime. You don't need to vote on it. And I
Okay.
would just, immediately try and get it answered.
Copy. All right.
What I would suggest is if maybe, just to be more efficient, if people could send them to you by a certain date, then you could send them to me in a bunch.
Sure. So what I'll do, I'm gonna resend the our section, transportation, public safety, environment section to everyone, and I'll probably give a date by probably next couple of weeks to maybe before Memorial Day to get some questions and or statements or maybe potential statistics, so that way we can send them to the office and we'll have a better grasp on this come June, and then we can lock it in on July.
Okay.
All right. So I'll send out one of my emails next couple weeks, next week or so. Rodents, I don't know if that's changed. I think we just need to update the stats.
I just actually had a presentation on it today for my district service cabinet meeting.
Mhm.
So basically, we have been one of the 3 worst areas in New York City. Because of that, we had the neighborhood rat program, which totally stopped during COVID, along with the being totally stopped. A lot of garbage pickup was stopped. All the restaurants were put out in the middle of the street, and it is a disaster. Department of Health said they're getting many, many more complaints. They're just beginning their indexing cycle, which measures rodent burrows and problems on each lot. So we're not going to have that information for this, but it is definitely a lot worse. And I will try to get some kind of stats with Department of Health. Their rat program people are actually very, very good.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I'll take responsibility for updating that section or getting the information to the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Tariq, you have a question?
Yeah, I mean, in Nitro Reese, I mean, I've personally seen improvements with the reduction of rats in this area. Construction a little bit has also stopped, and we had some major construction in like the front buildings on A Street, and I haven't seen any rats, to be honest. So might be interesting to do like a statistics on the NYCHA buildings and where, because it probably has a decrease in some of the areas.
If you read last year's, it said that they had success in working with NYCHA to reduce rat activity, but I'll ask if that's still true.
Tariq, they're not on A Street anymore. They just moved up to 12th.
I guess they did.
I'm just kidding. I've seen more around 12th and C and D than I've had in a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's A Street, but I also a lot of our construction has, there's not much happening over here anymore.
Is this police light tower still up on 8th and D?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But I don't think, I mean, the lights or anything don't bother them.
No. I just want to know. I just want to know if the apparatus is still there. That's really what it was.
Yeah. That is still. But a lot of our, I don't know. There was a lot during the major I don't know what they were doing, like the generators that they were putting up and stuff.
Okay.
But a lot of that construction has come down.
Copy.
Well, they should be able to give separate stats for NYCHA.
Yeah. All right, environment. Is this going to change with what we heard tonight or no?
Well, that's a potential for making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
So here's we have more information in here than they had. We're 13th out of the 59 community districts for the fine particulate.
Oh, look at that. Something with something. Let's see how that changes or not. All right, scroll down a little bit. I think the next section is public safety, right? So the public safety section is the one that we changed up a lot last year, right, Susan? I think I wrote
We
portions of it.
did. Yes, you totally changed it last year.
All right. Is this something we think we need to update again?
Crime's going up.
So I guess we got to push the numbers back up.
And we're getting more and more complaints in our community, you know, along with the general discussion about police reform and funding. And Paul will know this. When you go to all our community meetings, people are furious that the police aren't doing enough, and they want more police doing more enforcement.
Yeah, we've gotten a lot of that lately. It's kind of on the opposite end of everything. I'm trying to think, maybe I'll look at this one more time, of what we can add into this. I know we talked a little bit about the homeless portion in the last one, but now considering everything that's happened that has been brought to our attention, either in Chinatown area or Avenue C, 3rd Street area, that area, I'm sure it's going to push those numbers way up.
I suspect you're right.
So we're gonna need to update this and make it stronger. All right, I'll start looking at that. Committee have any questions so far? Things they may want to take on, may want to add in. If not, I'll just shoot an email to everybody with the district needs statement, and whatever questions you have, I'll submit to the office.
If you'd like, Paul, I can shoot you this. It's a 1 1/4 page. What is a district needs statement? It might just be helpful for people.
Awesome. I'll do that. I'll send that back out then.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna wrap this portion up, and I'll reach out via email to everyone. Thank you, Susan, for your assistance there. I'm sorry, let me close out. So we'll take our final vote. We're going to basically voting on the last thing we're voting on is the only thing we're voting on is the block party application. Correct? I think that's the only thing we're voting on, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Wendy, you can close this out.
Okay, Paul,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Wendy, yes. Lee Berman,
Yes.
David Crane, still out.
Yeah, he's not on today.
Felicia Cruikshank,
Not on.
Ellen Lowe,
Not on.
and Tariq Ramos.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That is 5 yes and 3 absent.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So the block party is approved. It's a bookstore throwing a block party. I just find that ironic.
I don't know what that 8 ball or ball, what that is. They said it's a volunteer organization, but I should have asked volunteer what, or I'll Google it.
It's going to be a pool hall on the middle of the block.
Well, that sounds.
According, I think it's a community center just called 8 Ball.
Okay.
But it does sound like a really nicest block party I've ever heard.
It's a book block party. Is it even a party?
Well, it's what the city calls it.
Okay. We shouldn't have even done it. All right. I'm being recorded.
They shouldn't have done it, you're saying?
It's not, don't call it a party. Call it like something else, like let's just throw books at each other or something.
Like a book fair instead.
Yeah, there we go. Just like school, scholastic book fair. I hope it turns out to be good. I actually will drop by that. All right. Other than that, we're ready to adjourn. Have a good night, everyone. It's been long here already.